A top European trade official says he's confident the Eurozone, including Greece, is poised for recovery. Alex Stubbs is Finland's Minister of European Affairs and Foreign Trade. I spoke with them from Helsinki about what it will take to keep the EU on the right track.
I think we keep on taking 2 steps forward and then perhaps coming 1 back. And my thesis has been that if this crisis was 100 steps, we're up to about 60 to 70 steps. All the institutional measures, the big stuff, the legislation is in place, the worst crisis is over, and now in Europe, really, the debate is only about growth and jobs. So we're not out of it yet, but we're pretty far down the road.
If you could make recommendations to do things any differently, whether it's with Greece or Italy or any other country for that matter, what would you have done differently?
Well, it's very difficult to say. It's so easy to be sort of after smart on these kinds of things. I mean, the big debate, of course, about austerity and growth or austerity and stimulation. And I think even Keynes said it in the olden times. You just have to find the right time. Now, in 2009, we had the money to stimulate the economies and try to jumpstart it. But 2010, 2011, 2012, we didn't. We didn't have the money to pump into the system. And of course, our European Central Bank doesn't have the same task as the US Fed has. So there isn't really that much that I would have done differently. And I'm not the type of person who looks back. I just want to look forward. And I'm really happy that we still have our heads above the water.
What else needs to be done at this point?
Well, I think 3 things, really. If we want growth back, if we want to get back on the growth path, we need to do 3 things. Number 1, we need to do structural changes at home. In some countries, it still means austerity measures. It means cutting public spending and increasing taxes. Number 2, we need to liberalize the internal market in Europe. There's still areas which we haven't liberalized fully. Say, for instance, the digital single market. We need to work on that. And number 3 is to liberalize world trade. And of course, there are a lot of free trade agreements in the pipeline right now between the EU and India, EU and Japan, and also, hopefully, the EU and the US.
You look around at your neighbors, and I'm sure you have very kind things to say about Finland, so perhaps I'll leave Finland out of it. You could include it if you want. Which country is sort of the role model for Europe? Which country is getting it right?
Well, I mean, to be quite honest, I think one of our big guys, in other words, Germany, has been getting it right from the beginning. But usually what has happened is that the countries that had problems in the 1990s, they are the ones who are doing well right now. I mean, look at countries like Finland and Sweden. We had huge banking crisis in the early 1990s, interest rates pumping up to 20%, unemployment 18. Germany was called the sick man of Europe. The Netherlands and Denmark were certainly not competitive. And now, 20 years later, we took the austerity measures, the tough measures at the time, and that's why we're doing well right now. But if I was to have one country above everyone else at this particular moment in Europe, it would have to be Germany.
During the Greece crisis, a lot of organizations, including the IMF, wanted more austerity for Greece. And lately, a lot of people have been sort of second-guessing that, saying that perhaps that might not have been the best move for Greece. Was that the right move? And do you think Greece should have done more or could have done more?
Well, 2 things on Greece. The first one is everyone kept on talking about Grexit. In other words, Greece exiting the euro. That did not happen, and it ain't going to happen. Right now, everyone is actually talking about Greek recovery. In other words, Greece recovering in one way or another. And to be quite honest, I'm quite sick and tired of all of these columnists and so-called economists giving advice on Greece. I think they were in a really tough situation. They still are, but they're going to pull out of it. And again, when we come to the stimulation debate, I'm a big US fan and I love US economists. There's no problem with that. But there were 3 US economists that were advising George Papandreou, from what I understand, in 2009. And their advice was to pump as much public money into the system as possible. And that was what caused the final sort of tipping point or problem for Greece. And actually those economists, from what I understand, were Krugman, Stiglitz and Sachs. So it's very easy to be after smart on these kinds of things. My point is that Greece is out of the worst. Some mistakes were made, but I think they're at the end of the day going to pull out of it.
Minister Alex Stubbs from Finland.